Hi, welcome to Future Fast. And like always, we have a very interesting guest today. And before I bring him to the conversation, I just hope you're all enjoying Future Fast. And those of you who are here for the first time, I urge you to subscribe to Future Fast and also look up. There are a lot of such interesting conversations from across the world. And you'll also find some conversations uh, conflicting views or opinions. And it is deliberately I seek to bring people from different perspectives so that we get a better informed, or rather, we can form a better informed opinion by listening to all the perspectives. So that's the intention of this. And with that, I'll jump into the conversation. We have today uh, Dr. Bruno Gonçalves, who's the president of Institute of Plasma for Nuclear Fusion. And his full name is Bruno Soares Gonçalves. Well, with that, Bruno, welcome to Future Fast, and thank you so much for making time to be here with us.
Thank you very much for the invitation. It is a pleasure to be here and to speak a bit about all the matters that really I care about, and in particular about energy.
Wonderful. So, with that, Bruno, first to start with, can you share your journey till now with our audience and listeners? How did you come about to be where you are today?
Yeah, well, I graduated in physics. I did a master in physics engineering and a PhD also in physics, and all related on the topic of plasmas and nuclear fusion. So it was. I really enjoyed physics when I was young. Well, to be honest, I would like to be an astronaut, but I'm afraid of flying. So I decided to be as close as I can to something that is related somehow, which is nuclear fusion and the power of the stars. But when I was a young student for physics, it was not clear for me what would be the real topic that I would embrace as a professional career. But on the third year, I had the opportunity to have some contact with fusion, and it was something that in that moment I think, well, that's it. I think I want to do fusion, and I was very lucky, and I enrolled in a group in IST, Instituto Superior Técnico in Lisbon, that was working in the European fusion program. And my career started there. So from this sudden interest in fusion, and start working on trying to make fusion a reality to produce electricity.
And what led you to get on to become the president of this institute? Perhaps it's the largest institute in physics research in your country, Portuguese?
Yeah, Institute for Plasmas and Nuclear Fusion. It is the largest research unit on physics in Portugal. Well, it's not large for the standard of other countries, but for us, having 150 persons is a large research unit. So after doing my PhD, and during my PhD, I spent about 4 years in Madrid. And after my PhD, I went during the postdoc to JET, which is the largest fusion device that is installed near Oxford, and it is the European fusion device. So I was there, and I was also doing a lot of management work there, because I was integrated into what was called the closed support unit, and I was managing the experimental program for JET. And after my returning, I became more and more involved in management, and I also became more and more involved in the evaluation of the research unit. We have several evaluations over time, and I start preparing all the documentation for the evaluations for projects, applications. So it became quite natural. It was something that grew over time, and the involvement became more important. And it was also related with I guess some skills for communicating and to communicate with people and communicate with the panels and communicate what we were doing. So that also helped steer in my career, I think.
Well, from your academics you've been, it so happens most people get into uh, uh, accidentally, or sometimes something else comes in the way even much after academics. But you're one of those who actually stuck on to your line right through and through from your career itself. But what is holding you in that? Because generally so many other distractions come about and people move out of what they got started with, right, from an academic sense.
Yeah, well, it looks like it was straightforward, but actually it is not. It was you have, or when you look back, it seems that everything was straight, but you had a lot of bumps in your career that steered you towards what you were doing. So I went to Madrid by accident because a colleague had a program, had a PhD work to be done there, and she gave up to go to another university. So it was offered to me. So it was an accident going to Madrid. And in Madrid, I met a quite nice supervisor that I really loved to work with. And it was extremely productive from the scientific point of view, which helped giving a big jump. When I went to England, it was again an opportunity. There was in that moment, I was considering what I would do, where I would apply, and there was a position opening in the closed support unit, so I decided to apply. And the same happened when I returned to Portugal. There was opportunities to work more, for instance, to do outreach, to be more in close contact with the young students and to communicate more, which helps steering this this sense that we need to communicate and we need to communicate what we are doing. At the same time that there were opportunities on several different projects that I embraced and that I took on board, and that I did the proposals, that I managed the proposals. So opportunities appear. The only thing that makes your life go forward is being prepared for those opportunities. So when you look, it seems that they were there, but no, they were not there. You were prepared to take them on board. That's what makes seems that they were there. If you don't prepare yourself and you are always expecting them to come without being prepared, you may lose opportunities. So I think that what looks like a very straightforward career is really a lot of accidents happening that brings you towards this path. And that's what brought me to the management of the research institute. It worked quite well. That's why I'm the president since 2012, with elections every 2 years from my peers. But it became natural. But even my selection of physics as something for graduation, it was related to someone that was important in my life. And it's something, some people that we sometimes forget, the professors that we have in high school. So I had a lot of interests. I had a lot of different loves for science, for literature, even for artistic lives. And then you find people that help you define yourself. Professors in high school are quite important for that, and I was very lucky. I had a professor that also that today she was professor of my eldest son also, so it was quite nice. She's still teaching, and in the it was 11th grade. We had to do some work about for chemistry. I was thinking to become a chemistry engineer, a chemical engineer. And she lent me a book, which was called the 3 First Minutes from Steven Weinberg, about the beginning of the universe. And I became so in love with that book, and she lent me more books about physics. And that's the moment I decided, no, I like chemistry, but I don't want to be, I don't want to do chemical engineering. I want really to become a physicist. So this is, again, it was this accident. It's accident because people enter into your life. People give you something that helps you to make a decision that brought me to physics. And again, when I decided to go to fusion, it was because we had a professor in IST, which was Minister of Science in Portugal, Professor José Mariano Gago, that had a particular class where he was inviting people, physicists from working in several different areas that were even from biological sciences. We had physicists working in biological sciences. And what he was showing us is that doing physics was opening a lot of different possibilities. So you are not defined from what you study, but you have you are opening opportunities. And in that moment, when he invited someone from nuclear fusion, it was the moment that I decided I want to work in nuclear fusion. So, but again, it was an accident. If he didn't invite that particular person to speak about nuclear fusion, maybe today I would be another thing. And it probably would be okay, because it's something that I really say a lot of times to students that are coming from the high school, or even university students. The most important decision that you have to take in life is not what you want to be, is what you are never going to be happy working with, because this is what you can become. Is a lot of opportunities will appear. Jobs are changing. Technology is changing. What you study today is not what you are going to do tomorrow. But there are a lot of things that you are never going to become to be happy working with. And that is the most important decision that students have to take on university, on the high school, and that is quite important. And I think that this notion also for me is also important, because my parents never push me towards a given profession. So they help me. They said, well, it's your decision, it's your life, so decide what you think is best for you. And this helped a lot in being this free to decide. And it is important to decide what you like to do, or what you may do, and what you would never be happy to do. So what looks like a very straightforward are accidents, where it is important to be prepared, to embrace the challenges, but it's not something that you define at the start where you are going to end.
True. Bruno, you are at the core a researcher, but now as a president with a lot of administrative responsibilities, how do you balance it? How do you uh, how do you uh, how do you allow this? Because a lot of people don't like this administrative function, right? And you seem to have made peace with that. So how do you do that?
Being a researcher and being a manager. Yeah, well, it's being a manager sometimes is boring, sometimes is challenging, sometimes doesn't make you friends. But you still need to be, if you want to do management of science, you need to be enrolled in what is going on. You need to understand, because your job is not just providing the budget, is not just managing the budget, is not just hiring people and firing people. Your job is to understand what the strategy needs to be, where the technology is going, what are the needs from the point of view of skills that you need to develop in your research institute, or the skills that you may try to bring students on to gain, because it's necessary for the area where you are working. So if you are doing science, really it's not just management, you are managing science. And managing science needs your involvement in the work, on the knowledge, on the progresses, on what is going on. So I can really, I'm able to bring that together. And it's quite important that we bring that together, because in a given moment we have to take decisions on areas that we are not going to progress, decisions on areas where we should invest a bit. And if you are not enrolled, you cannot take those decisions. At least you cannot take those decisions in an informed way. So you can guess what, and sometimes you are right, but it's much better that you are involved and you know what you are doing. So you really need to conciliate. So being a science manager is not just being a manager, and it requires a lot of involvement in the science and technology and what is going on.
Well, as little as I understand the nuclear science and the people in the nuclear science space, whatever reading I've done, there seems to be two schools of thought, right? One driven nuclear science, driven by the physicist, and then there are people who come from a math background, mathematicians into nuclear science. So, how do you see this? I mean, do you uh, uh, are are you biased towards physicists because you are one of them?
Well, first, nuclear fusion is more than just physics. It's really an engineering challenge. So, and working in nuclear fusion, and it's not different if we are speaking about nuclear fission, actually. You need a lot of physics, but you cannot avoid the engineering. You have complicated physics that requires mathematics. Today requires a lot of high performance computing. It requires theoretical physicists to develop the models. But then you have all the technological challenges that are associated, and you require really engineering skills, and engineering skills that range from, for instance, for control, you need electrotechnical engineers, and you need control engineers, you need mechanical engineers to design your devices, you need nuclear physicists to assess the impact of neutron and radiation on your designs. You need diagnostics physicists to measure what is going on and to design proper diagnostics. You need plasma physicists to understand what is going on the device. So this is really multidisciplinary. So if there are areas that really bring together all these people and different competencies, is nuclear fission and nuclear fusion. One cannot work without the other. So, and you need mathematicians also. You need material science. So it's an area that you really need to manage all these people and bring them together to make something that hopefully will be useful for the mankind. And so we live quite well with that. We have different people from different backgrounds, different areas. Of course, in some moments we have problems that we need to learn a common language, even to speak with each other. But it's unavoidable. Today we are not able to do any research in nuclear fusion, any device for research in nuclear fusion, without bringing all these people together. Technology, physics, mathematics, computation, all these has to really be integrated. And it's the only way that you are going to be able to progress. And it's becoming more and more common in science, in technology today, that big projects require this integration. That's why I said earlier that the course you do today, the graduation you do today, and even the PhD doesn't define what you are going to do, because if you are going to be integrated into challenging projects, sooner or later you will be doing something completely different. You may be doing machine learning, you may do artificial intelligence, you may be managing projects, but because really these are becoming bigger projects, become much more they become with more involved in different competencies and multidisciplinary, and this is quite important. And so everyone work together, and this is part of the challenge.
Sure, wonderful. Well, Bruno, I'm just curious to know, some of the reading of people, physicists in particular. I see that there seems to be some element of spirituality that drives them. So, is there something intrinsic to being a physicist, or it's just some people are like that? What's your take on that?
I think that a lot of physicists and people try to understand the nature. So there's the spirituality associated to, I want to understand what is going on, what is the nature around. Sometimes I found it difficult to conciliate, for instance, with religion, which is different from being spiritual and believing that there's something underneath that defines the laws of physics. But you find quite different people with different views. I think there are no common ground that defines a physicist apart from the curiosity, the willing to understand the nature, the willing to play with the maths and taking math as the language of the nature and try to understand it. But you can find physicists that are agnostics. You can find physicists that are believers in some kind of in many different religions. So the spirituality, I think, in the end, is really in the need to understand the nature and to be close. And somehow brings us closer to nature. So if you understand it, you are trying to make sense of your life, which is, in the end, it has the same function that sometimes religion has, to bring you, to make sense of why you are here and what is your role in the world. So somehow it is connected. It roots from the same need to understand our role in the universe and why the universe is here and why we do exist. And I think that, but apart from that, I don't think that there's a common spirituality that makes you a physicist. Curiosity for certain, willing to take challenges. This is something that is more or less common to different physicists. But different backgrounds bring you to the same path. So there are many paths to the same objective, and you will find people from different backgrounds.
Well, one more kind of people, right, among the physicists are, I think, I don't remember who said this. They said the smartest people on earth are physicists. So is that a motivation to be a physicist, that if I'm the smartest, I got to be one? I'm just, and it was also echoed in one of those popular sitcoms on that, I'm forgetting it, Big Bang Theory as well. In fact, even there the statement comes. But it was said by a very popular person, I forget that, yeah.
Yeah, well, I will start with a joke that sometimes I tell to my friends, physicists that work with me, which is that we were smart enough to do a PhD in physics, but we were not clever enough to find a job that would pay as well. So smart and clever is not necessarily the same thing. I think that being smart or thinking that you are smart also drives you towards making something that is quite challenging and is part of it. But I think that, I think that you need more than being smart. You need to be persistent. You need to be willing to work. You need to be organized. You need to organize your thoughts around a problem. You need to be systematic. So it's not really being smart, but it's more a set of different characteristics that you need to bring. But also it's not different from being a mathematician, an engineer. You also need these common traits to become a researcher, basically, or even a medical doctor. I don't think you need to know something about mathematics for sure, and you need to understand physics. But being smart is not. I wouldn't say that it is the characteristic that defines us. Certainly, we have some understanding of what is going on, but you can find smart people everywhere. And as I told you, we were not clever enough to find a job that would pay as well.
Just in continuation, so what is the biggest motivation for you to be and stay a physicist? Is that something about making it to a Nobel Prize or something like that?
Well, maybe that was the years ago that when I started, maybe that was the motivation. What drives me mostly, it's the curiosity, making things happen. Of course, selecting nuclear fusion to feel that we are making things happen is not the best, the cleverest choice, because it takes time. But for me today, in the particular area I'm working, is having the feeling that we are contributing to something that may be quite useful for the mankind if we really manage to achieve, which is produce electricity from fusion. And having 5 children of my own, energy is something that it is a concern to me, to give them a better world, to ensure that they have a world that is decarbonized, that we don't have climate changes, that we don't have wars because of energy. So this is also becoming part of the ambition that I have today on working on this area. So it was not maybe when I was a young boy in school, probably the Nobel Prize was the target. Today is more to ensure that I'm helping accomplishing something that may be useful to the mankind. And for me, that is more than enough, in particular because I'm benefiting also my sons.
So, but you already mentioned about a couple of professors in your life, but are there more people who are responsible for the way you think and what you are today?
Well, there were several people that we intersect in life that helps you to bring you. So first of all, as I mentioned, my parents and the teaching me that I should make my own choices and to become independent. So that one is very important. Also, the access I had to different books, different knowledge was quite important. And then professors in high school, and I had nice professors in high school. They were important because they form you. They take you in a moment that you are forming yourself as an adult, and you are becoming an adult. So they help you on the decisions. They help you to become a good person or a bad person, but they help you on forming yourself. Then when I entered university, actually I was, apart from the professor I mentioned, Professor Marianne Gago, which was quite important because it was that moment that defined my life. After I had the former president of Institute for Plasmas and Nuclear Fusion, Professor Carlos Varandas, that was quite important because he accepted me in this lab. And after he was he helped me find my way. He was my co-supervisor, and he helped to find my way. When I went to Spain, my supervisor, my PhD supervisor in Spain, Professor Carlos Hidalgo in CIEMAT, was really important because he was so enthusiastic. He was accepting all ideas. We were exchanging a lot of different ideas. We published a lot of articles. So it was quite important just for the enthusiasm and the knowledge and from the exchange of ideas. And then when I went to England, more on the managerial side, I met a few people that were quite important, directors of JET. I passed through 2 directors of JET, and I learned a lot with them. And so those are probably the ones that I remember the most. With of course, you always, when you are doing this exercise, you may forget people that touched you, and somehow, and sometimes you don't even realize how they touch you. But so these are the people that steered my professional life and my personal life. And of course, then you start growing. And as I mentioned, I have 5 kids, ranging from the 23 to the 2 years old. And of course, this interaction with them, seeing them growing, also makes you a different person. And understanding what you want from the world, of course, they become quite important in your life and in defining you as a person. So those are the ones that I remember. Many more probably exist, and my apologies if I forgot them. But yeah, you are always exposed to people. Every time you interact, you change. Sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worse.
Yeah, and if you look back to your journey, and if you have to put 3 biggest takeaways from it, what would you take?
Can you repeat the question, please?
If you have to take 3 biggest takeaways through your journey, which could be from the point of something, the way it helps you in your career or in your life, but you as a person, what are the 3 things, 3 biggest learnings for you all through your life?
The biggest learnings. You are never alone. So you have people that are willing to help you, professionally and personally. You don't get things if you don't prepare for them. So things don't fall from the sky into your hands. You need to be ready to embrace them. If you are, so you prepare for receiving what is coming to you. Otherwise, you are not prepared to embark on new challenges. So they don't fall in your hands. You need to be prepared. And the third take is profession is important, but it doesn't define your whole life. So you need a personal dimension to your life. Otherwise, you miss a lot of what the world has to offer. So I would say that there's a balance between profession and personal life. And this is something that I think I learned over time. So I'm probably the first moments of my PhD, I was really very focused on the PhD and forgetting the life around. So I really feel that. And finally, time passes quite fast. So it's hard to believe that I joined IST 31 years ago as a student, and I'm still here. So times pass really fast.
Well, do you want to recommend podcast, something that you regularly follow to our listeners and audience?
Actually, I do not follow a lot of podcasts. I read different books and on different topics, ranging from literature to more technical books. So I don't have a podcast that I really follow regularly. So sometimes I just want to be far from. I want to. Sometimes I need to disconnect a bit from what is going on and what is going on the world. So I need this suspension of reality by isolating from all these, that is the internet, the opinions, the different discussions that appear. So really, I'm sorry, I don't have a podcast to recommend. I read a lot of books and I enjoy different books on different topics.
You could probably talk about the few that you're reading recently.
So I'm about to start to read the biography of Elon Musk. I read the previous one that was published, so I'm curious about Walter Isaacson biography, mostly because I really love the book, the biography about Steve Jobs, and the other book about the innovators. So it was really give an idea of how a completely different field grows. I'm sure one day there will be a similar book about how nuclear fusion became a reality, and it will take and it will give you different views of what innovation is. I return from time to time, but that is more from the point of view of I like doing presentations, and I do a lot of presentations. So the need to or to communicate was something that I realized soon that we need to do. We need to communicate to the public. We need to express what we are doing outreach. So I really love two books on presentations and communication, which is Slideology by Nancy Duarte and the Presentation Zen by Gar Reynolds. So these are very technical books on how to doing presentation. But if we are communicating, I feel that this is quite important. And on literature, I really love two Portuguese writers. One is José Saramago. He was a Nobel Prize, so it's literature if people like. And there's another one less known, José Cardoso Pires, that I really loved, and a Gallego writer, which is Gonçalo Torrente Ballester. So these are books, literature, because sometimes you need to suspend your reality and you need to live different lives. And literature and cinema is a great way for doing that. And sometimes it's where I refuge myself.
Wonderful. Well, Bruno, thank you so much for sharing this, and I hope our listeners and audience have enjoyed this part of our conversation as much as I did. And for our listeners, please do come back soon. We are going to have more conversation with Bruno, and particularly talking about why nuclear energy and And there are a few more questions on that, and also like to dig more on in comparison to renewable energy. So I'm sure you will find it interesting. And please feel free to share this conversation with all those who you think will also enjoy. And if you're not yet subscribed to Future Fast, do it right now. And till we meet again, enjoy the ride. Bruno, once again, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.